Hello everyone, this is your boy Anthony Tracey and welcome to the Crazy Jamaican Boy podcast. Alright, before we get into things, make sure you click like, make sure you leave a comment, make sure you subscribe if you haven't as yet, and share this video, okay? And for all the listeners on Spotify and Apple, make sure you guys leave a review, share, the whole works, all right? When you do things like this is what helps to boost the podcast, give it a growth, all right, guys? So big up on yourself and thank you guys so much for tuning in week after week. We're at episode 11. I never ever imagined that I would have gotten this far into it, so big up on yourself, guys. All right, so like I said, guys, hit like, share, comment, subscribe, everything. And if you haven't as yet, make sure you guys are following me on all of my socials: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Yeah, it's the Anthony Tracey across the board. You can't miss me. Yeah, so make sure you follow me and you see all of the madness and thing we're up to. All right. Yeah, so this is gonna be a very short podcast. Yeah, very, very short. But I do want to touch on some stuff, some very, very important stuff. Well, not so important, but things that me want to talk about, all right? So, let's talk about this thing with celebrities starting OnlyFans. I don't want to come across as being insensitive. That's not the goal here, but there's just something with these celebrities that have wealth, right? And you know what? Let me just backtrack a little bit. A lot of these celebrities we see them on TV, and I think we have this expectation that they're well off, right? And that's not always the case, if we're being honest. Some of these celebrities are broke, all right? They're famous, but broke, all right? But I want to talk about like specific celebrities, namely James Van Der Beek and Eric Dane, who recently passed. May their souls rest in peace. They're very talented actors, and I can't even imagine the immense pain that their families are going through. You know what I mean? Like, the death of a loved one is not something that's easy to deal with. And, I'm just sending them prayers in this time. But I just want to comment on just this thing where I see them starting I was going to say OnlyFans. No. Starting GoFundMes. All right. Now this might come across as very insensitive, but I think it's rather tone deaf, especially given in this current climate where we have people who can barely pay their rent, who can barely find food to eat. And then you have these celebrities in their big mansions who, seem to be living way above the 5%. And you are starting GoFundMes for what? For the regular average Joe to donate? Now, I can't tell people how to spend their money, for sure. And you're going to have people that are going to donate. But I think it is just rather asinine, right? Because why should I donate my hard-earned money? I'm a regular guy. I'm not accumulating wealth. I'm not rich. And I'm supposed to donate it to my hard-earned money to celebrities who are estimated to worth millions? Let's make that make sense. You guys need to stop it. You guys need to stop it. All right? It's not a good look. It is not a good look. Come on. Really? So you mean to tell me that the family and the friends, the rich, famous friends of Eric Dane, James Vanderbeek, they can't pull together some money to help the families. They're looking for like, us regular folks to donate to cover stuff like funeral. Like, no. No, 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 no. These people are living in like big mansions, okay? So why should we regular people? No, no, no. Y'all need to stop it. And then I realize it's becoming a trend now where people feel like they can start GoFundMes. No, 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 no. People, let's bring back shame. Okay? Let's bring back shame because that's not a good look. Don't try to exploit hardworking people for your gain. Okay? So Hollywood, let's cut this shit out. If you don't need to be making GoFundMes for regular people to be donating to rich celebrities. That's very exploitive. Yeah. All right. So moving on now. So obviously, I'm not sure if you guys are, well, more than likely when you hear about it. But the America's Next Top Model thing, I'm not gonna really talk much about this, but it's just something that's been trending. It's all over social media. Everybody have opinions, and all about it. And I think the person who has been targeted the most is obviously Tyra Banks. She's the face of the show. She's a host. She's an executive producer. So a lot of people have been calling her name throughout, saying that, she's the puppet master. She's the one that, exploited all of these models and ruined their lives and all of that. Now, is the criticism fair? I do believe the criticism is fair. You know what I mean? Because she was an executive producer. So this kind of gave her some level of control, right? And yeah, I do believe she deserves to be held accountable. However, what I don't like is the people who are trying to paint an image. Let's talk about the other judges, right? I feel like a lot of the other judges who are on that panel, they should be getting some heat as well. They're trying to make it seem as if though they did not have any power. They did not have any kind of control, nothing at all. It was all Tyra. And I think that is just bullshit. Listen, we're all adults. All right? We're all adults. We all know what is right from what is wrong. Okay? If you are, let's think about it as in a regular workplace, a work situation. If you as a regular staff member, you're seeing injustice and you're seeing all sorts of bullshit on a day-to-day basis, and you continue to sit in that workspace where all of this negativity, this exploit, all of that is going on, and you continue to watch it happen and you turn a blind eye to it all these many years while working at that company, regardless of whether you are able to, regardless of whether you're in control or you're able to, like, whatever, you're complicit. You're complicit because you're seeing it happening and you're not doing anything about it. All right? So you might not be just as bad as Tyra, but you do share some blame as well, because, you could have spoken out about this many, many years ago. You could have walked away from it many, many years ago. Nobody was holding a gun to your head. We're all adults and we all should be held accountable for our actions. So I don't think Tyra Banks should just be the one that's, nailed to the cross. I don't think she should be the only one to catch all the heat. I feel like there are many other people there. All right. And also, I think a lot of people need to understand that Tyra Banks, while she is the executive producer, she was the executive producer, she did not have full control over the show. She still had to answer to somebody, right? And there are many other producers that were on that show as well. So Tyra did not have the full creative control as many people would believe. All right. But even so, she does deserve the criticism. I saw a bit of the documentary and it wasn't a good look. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I wasn't really, that show came on when I was really young, so I didn't really watch it. I really would just probably see some glimpses of it with my mom, but I never, I didn't realize the show was that bad. But also, we have to also remember too, guys. We also have to remember this show was in the early 2000s, right? And I feel like a lot of things that used to, go on in the early 2000s, yeah, like it could not fly in this current climate. For all the models who were affected, by the show and all of that, I really do hope that they get some healing because, you know, just kind of watching them recount the stories or their time on the show, you can still see that they have a lot of, unhealed trauma from being on the show. So I really do hope that, them get the much needed healing that they deserve. Right. So another topic I want to talk about. I think I'm just gonna like address this and just kind of wrap it up. There was an article that came out and it said something regarding, Andrew Holness, basically asking for the Jamaican diaspora to come back to Jamaica, as a result of the declining birth rate. Right? That's what I saw. But Andrew did come out with a statement saying that, the article, it was rather exaggerated and he didn't really say it in that manner, as in which how the article has presented it. But let me just say this. There's been a lot of conversation, a lot of dialogue about the declining birth rates, right? And this is not something that's unique to only Jamaica. Like, a lot of countries have reported, all over the world that they've been experiencing, declining birth rates. And, it depends on how you look at it, right? Not a lot of people are able to take care of a child. They don't have the economy. And let's be honest, like, 10 years, when you compare 10 years ago to now, it's like night and day. All right. The middle class is, to me, I think it's basically extinct. I think it's an extinct class. I think it's either you're rich or you're poor. All right. A lot of people, they just simply can't afford to have children. You go into the grocery stores, you see a loaf of bread. Some people can't even afford to buy a loaf of bread for themselves. And look at that. One time a loaf of bread, it come like, that is like a basic necessity. The basic thing, anybody can buy a loaf of bread. No, it's almost a luxury even. Because it's like, damn. Watch out too. I got so excited when I got these plantains, them 3 plantains, yeah. Plantains are almost like a luxury item right now. Let's do the math. So, people can't afford it. People simply just can't afford it. What people forget the money from? You go into the supermarket and you see a feeding for y'all 10 grand. That came for last for a week. Pampers, healthcare, schooling. People can't really afford them something there. If people can't even afford to buy a house. Most people are rent right now. And the people that have them house, them might try Airbnb it. Rent out a room. So them can afford a basic standard of living. So why is it that there's this expectation? What's being done for the people? What's being done for the people to, make them feel comfortable to want to have a child. You know? I just think that if, more needs to be done. And if nothing is being done, the birth rates are just going to continue to decline. Because people really not have it. People don't have it. So we just need to work on that. And then we can just see what can go on, All right, guys. So that's it for the Crazy Jamaican Boy podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in week after week. Really appreciate it. If you have not as yet, please make sure you subscribe so you can get subscribe and click the bell so you'll be notified as soon as I drop another video. All right, guys. Spotify, Apple users, make sure you guys click the follow button. All right. One of the things like that, it'll build up the podcast. All right, guys. So yeah, enjoy on yourselves, bless up on yourself, enough love, and I'll see you guys next week.